So I think it was last week I told you a real true story, right? Okay. Oh, I have another true story for you this morning. Don't laugh yet. It's true. It's true, I tell you. There's this pig and a chicken. Already it sounds real, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, this pig and this chicken were walking by a church, and this church was having this incredibly huge charity event. And they were both really moved by the idea, because that's what chickens and pigs do, right? They get moved by an idea of charity. And they got really caught up in it. So the pig said to the chicken that he felt they needed to make a contribution. And the chicken's like, great idea. How about we do ham and eggs? And the pig said, hold the phone. For you, that's a contribution. For me, it's a commitment. Nothing? Okay. No, thanks. Whatever. So, fine. I guess that one wasn't quite so good. I thought it was. Anyway, so have you ever heard the saying, old ways won't open new doors? Or, great things never come from comfort zones? Well, I'm going to share a few stories with you that really speak to those two adages. The first one is about the telephone. In 1876, President Rutherford Hayes said this: that's an amazing invention, but who would ever want to use one of them? The electric light, from an 1878 British Parliament report on Edison's work. It's good enough for our transatlantic friends, but unworthy of the attention of practical or scientific men. William Henry Pickering was a Harvard astronomer, and in 1908, this is what he said about aviation. The popular mind often pictures gigantic flying machines speeding across the Atlantic and carrying innumerable passengers. It seems safe to say that such ideas are wholly visionary. In 1946, Darryl Zanuck was head of 20th Century Fox, and this is what he said about television. People will soon get tired of staring at a plywood box every night. If he could see us now, right? And as recently as 1977, Ken Olsen, who at the time was president of DEC, Digital Equipment Corporation, this is what he said about computers. There's no reason for any individual to have a computer in their home. Right? You never know what change is going to bring and what it's going to bring to our lives. All of those things have really enhanced our lives, haven't they? Me, I want to stay open to change. I want to be like Herb. 97, I want to be 97 in as good a shape as he is, by the way. 97, though, and still open to learning. Not so set in his ways that he can't see a new way of thinking or a new opportunity for growth or change. I love that about him. He's open to even a new dance move. As we all know, Herb and Sandy are quite the dancers. Do you know that Herb is still taking dance lessons? Now, how amazing is that? There's always more to learn. There's always a chance to grow. There's always something we don't know. And Herb is open to that. And that is one of the beautiful things that Herb has taught me. Always be open to change. Be open to more. We don't always have everything down pat, right? We're not always right in our thinking or the way we see the world. So be open And that's the whole idea. Nothing in life is static or fixed. It's all fleeting. It's all changeable. That's the normal state of affairs. That's the way life is set up to be. And without change and without learning and expanding our minds and experiences, there's no growth. And without growth, what happens? We become stagnant. We become the same old in that space. Ralph Marston wrote this. Yes, you could change it. Ralph Marston wrote this: anyone who is alive is constantly changing. Constantly. It's change which largely defines life. He said every part of you is always changing, and we know that scientifically too. Your moods, he says, change from day to day, from hour to hour. Your body changes, your thoughts changes, relationships, expectations, and surroundings, they all continue to change. Nothing ever stays the same forever. Everything shifts, everything changes. And haven't you found that to be true? There's enormous opportunity in change. So we may as well appreciate it, because change is going to happen in our lives whether we invite it in or not. Have you known that to be true? Often when those changes happen, it means a turnaround in our life circumstances. In many instances, that's true. So growth, progress, achievement, success, loss, change in routine, whether by our choice or not, they are all forms of change. And how you experience that change is entirely up to you. And the truth is, the way we experience that change can alter day to day, depending on where we are and how we are feeling about life and our circumstances at that particular time. Now, sometimes, as we all know, change can happen very suddenly. And we tend to get pretty worked up over that, generally speaking. That's just the human condition. Because many changes come from the realm outside of our control. Even if at first a change appears, or you experience it negatively, generally after the fact, we can see the positive effects that seemingly negative experience or change had on us or our lives. I remember a really long-time friend of mine came to me one day, and she was terribly upset because her son and his girlfriend had gotten pregnant. And they were very young, absolutely no intention of planning a life together. It was one of those things, and she was really upset. And my first thought was, oh, congratulations, you're going to be a grandma. And she stopped for a second and thought, wow, I hadn't gotten to that space yet. I hadn't thought about that yet. And it totally changed her perspective. That change was welcome in her life. And she's a great, great grandmother, because she loves that little boy so dearly. So it's a matter of shifting how we're seeing change in our life. Knowing how to manage that change, how to change our perspective, is really important. To accept that change as, this is the best time in my life, right? May not do that right up front when something happens, but it's there. And through that change, whatever it is, we grow. We grow spiritually, mentally, emotionally. We grow if we choose to, or we stay stuck. And when we stay stuck, we move into that place, generally speaking, of frustration and unhappiness, which is really simply resistance to what is. I read this analogy about change that I want to share with you, because I think it's really powerful. It says, in theory, change should be simple. Well, of course. When walking down the street, let's say you come to a construction site and need to change your path, which is not far-fetched in Corona, by the way. So you come to this construction site and you need to change your path. And you look around the area and you should be able to find like a detour sign and follow it and get where it is you want to go. So inherently, that situation should not cause any stress. However, our brain kind of tweaks and it causes us to see things a little bit differently. Because we've taken this normal path before, we don't worry where that normal path will take us because we know it's going to take us exactly where we want to go. When we run into a roadblock, suddenly the information that we trusted has broken down. And we kind of stop. We have to think about it. Where does that other road lead? Is it safe? How long will it take? Will it really get me where I want to go? What we don't know tends to frighten us, and change creates a lot of things that we don't know. And as a result, we have a tendency as human beings to act maybe a bit irrationally to try and prevent change. And often without realizing it, we make our lives unnecessarily problematic. Just something to think about, right? Well, some changes can occur overnight, whether it's a paradigm shift in the way that you think or an external change like having a child or getting married or losing a loved one. Growth from those experiences will generally take time. And patience. You likely won't become an expert in a day about accepting change with a great big smile. Not when it's something that, of course, wasn't invited in. Accepting change and being comfortable and okay with that is an incremental process. And you'll know that you're doing well. You'll know that you're growing through that process because you'll be moving steadily in a forward direction. And that's always a great thing to do. And while the changes that I'm talking about this morning are coming from the outside, our growth is always, always going to come from within. Other people can support us, they can help us, they can encourage us. However, ultimately, we ourselves must do that growing. As uncomfortable as change can be, if we can just leave ourselves open to it, it can be a wonderful journey. And it can lead us to being more receptive for the next change that's coming, because guess what? It's coming, whether we want it or not. That change will be here. Eric Butterworth said this: don't go through life, grow through life. And isn't that what we're here to do? To grow, to expand, to become more of who we are, to recognize that I am presence, and to share that with everybody. So the most efficient way to move through those inevitable changes with grace and with ease is to be grounded spiritually. That's what creates that genuine trust in life, that connection with our source, with our higher power. It's only human to fear change and to fear the unknown. And so next time you have that change, that unexpected change, take a deep breath, welcome it. Be grateful in advance for the blessings that are going to follow, for the lessons that will come through on the other side, because they always do. Change is always in the long run for the best. Even if it feels off balance, even if it feels painful, there is always, always, always a silver lining. I can guarantee you this: at the end of today, several things will be different than they were when you woke up this morning. That's just a fact. The world is always changing. Ask Herb. He's seen a lot of change in 97 years. You can fight against those changes. You can resent them. You can worry about them. You can complain about them. You can fear them. Or you can see the opportunity in them. If you're fearful of change, you'll end up spending a lot of time being unhappy because change is always and forever present. When you find ways to make change your friend and your ally, your time is much better spent as you open up to a world of unlimited possibilities. Changes can be frightening. However, keep this in mind. You have been quite successful at dealing with change your entire life. Have you not? You wouldn't be here if that wasn't true. That's how you've learned. That's how you've grown. That's how you've moved forward in life. Look at each change that has come, and no matter how it may have seemed at first, look beyond, look at the end of it, look on the other side of it, and find the opportunity that you either found, saw, or maybe now you can look with your eyes a little more open at what a blessing it truly was in one way or another. That silver lining that we're always looking for. If you're unsure about how you've handled change in the past, you're going to love this quote. I'm not where I want to be, but thank God I'm not where I used to be. Right? I think we can all relate to that one. Open your arms wide. Be open to the new opportunities that are ahead of you. Be open and ready for what comes next. You never know what that might look like. Am I right, Herb? All right. Thank you so much for being here while I shared this truth as I understand it.